Hi, Mom. She's she's on. Wow. So again, I know I said it, Leslie, but I'm going to say it again. Thank you so much for sharing. My speeches of last week is that nothing is random. Nothing is random, right? We last week we touched upon the fact that Hashem is recreating the moments every single minute. So like Michal said so beautifully, your story is talking to my story, is talking to her story, is talking to her story. And you're sharing a story that we need to hear because, again, Hashem is recreating every moment. So it's not random that we're all sitting here and we're listening to this story. If we feel impactful, if we feel emotion, if we feel compassion, if we feel empathy, it's that kind of emotion that we're going to pour out somewhere else. You know what? It's crazy because you're talking about surrendering, you're talking about couples, and Esther just said that you're both pillars of strength of couples, and today we're talking about the energies of male and female. We're talking about all the fun, juicy stuff. I feel like I got finally to the lofty, and now I can relate to what I'm saying, so let's recap a little bit, okay? Let's recap. We're gonna get into really beautiful things, and these are things that speak to us as women specifically, and it's not going to feel foreign. It's not going to feel lofty. We're gonna talk about our essence, and it's B'ezrat Hashem going to be good. So the first connection that we spoke to is our connection to Hashem. We drew the lines of how Hashem wants us. And because Hashem wants us, we respond with love. That's our first connection. Last week, the connection was connecting to our purpose. Hashem loves me. Hashem wants me. He desires a place here in this world. That means he puts me up to the plate. I need to inject myself in the world to praise his name. My purpose. Now we're connecting to our feminine self. Okay? You and I, female. We have an energy. From the mere story of our creation, we can understand who we are. So this is going to resonate. If it doesn't, it's okay. But this is going to resonate because speaking as a woman, I'm going to really talk the dimensions of my neshama as a woman. So it really starts at the beginning of creation. Okay, we're in the Parshat Bereshit, so it's appropriate. Hashem made the world, and then from the four corners of earth and dust, he molded a man. From nothing, he created something. From the earth, he created man. Then he thought it was good. He thought it was wholesome. And then he realized, I have a purpose. I want godliness in this world. I created a man, but it's not enough. I need somebody else. Hi. I need somebody else to help this man in my purpose. Okay? So then he put him into a sleep. He put Adam in a sleep. And like the famous story, from his rib, he created a counterpart. He created the woman and he adorned her. It said that he made her beautiful and they married. He almost gave her a gift of a woman. So again, men come from earth. Men come from the dust of the earth, molded into a man. A woman comes from rib. A woman comes from the man. Now, Hasidus says that actually, and we're going to learn about why this dynamic happens, actually, man and woman were actually made back to back. And Hashem said it's not good for them to be back to back because they're not choosing each other. If I separate them and I make them face to face, then there's a choice. Then they could desire each other and pursue each other. So actually, the real creation of man is composed of women and man. Okay, so Hashem made man with a woman. He separated them, and then he made woman and man. Woman comes from the rib of man, and man comes from earth. So many questions, and by the feminist revolution, they came and asked, so what? My purpose is only for the man to do his purpose. I don't have a purpose of my own. I'm not my own independent entity. And God said, no. I have a purpose. We know the purpose. I want a place here in the world. I need you to help your husband or the man of your life draw out that purpose, not for his needs, for my needs. You will bring your husband to bring me down to this world. So in essence, you and him are part of this purpose. Now, when we understand just the story of creation, we understand the need of a man and a woman. The male ego is from dust he is created, and from dust he will return. You ask a man if he amounted to nothing, his biggest complexity, his biggest insecurity, the hardest part for a man is to go back to being nothing. We as women don't have this complexity. You're never going to hear a woman say, I need to be more woman. I need to conquer more to be a woman. Why? Because the lowest level that a woman can be is a rib, is not earth. Man's fight and plight and his conviction in life is I need to conquer, I need to be aggressive, I need to prove myself to be something because I really come from nothing. So man's biggest insecurity is to amount to being nothing. A woman doesn't have that insecurity. A woman, it's funny, Manas Freeman says, a woman could feel like 10 or 1, but never 0. She could feel very low about herself. She could feel very high about herself, but she'll never have the insecurity of feeling like nothing. And when she does feel like nothing, she feels an injustice. And that's like women's insecurity. I am something. I come from rib. The most that I can amount to is rib. It's not earth. So when I'm not feeling appreciated, when I'm not feeling adorned, when I'm not feeling like you're responding to the essence that I am, I'm upset. And that just outlines the difference between a man and a woman. A man seeks respect because without respect, he will come back with his demons of feeling nothing. A woman, her biggest need, yes, it could be respect, it could be other things, but her biggest need is appreciation. Her biggest need is appreciation because if you don't appreciate me, you're not responding to the essence of who I am. I come from something. You can never amount me to nothing because there's an injustice. But for the husband, it's a truth. For a man, it's a truth. He has to face the truth that if he, after 120 years, didn't surmount to something, he's going to feel like nothing, and that's the truth. But a woman, it's not the truth. She'll feel an injustice if she feels like a nothing. I am something. So this idea of Adam and Chava comes to explain to us the need of a man and a woman. And we're going to reiterate on it. If you can give anything to a man, it's to feel that he's not nothing. It's to feel that he is respected, that he's honored, that he came to being something so precious in your life. You know, you're fighting, you're out in the world, you're conquering, you're aggressive. A woman doesn't have that pursuit of having to repair and conquer. And in her own being herself, she's perfect. She's silently good. But when she feels that she's just so good, you don't see it, you don't appreciate it. On my natural being, you don't see that I'm just good. She's upset that she's not appreciated. So man seeks respect and women seek appreciation. When we can understand the needs of male and female, then we can start to understand also the energies of feminine and masculine. Now, again, I started off by saying that men and women, even though women comes from rib, Hashem created a man and a woman together. That means in a male and in a female, there exists feminine, divine femininity, and masculinity. We all have a feminine energy and a masculine energy. We do. There are times that I feel very masculine, and there are times that I feel very in touch with my femininity. There are times that my husband can feel very in touch with his femininity, and there are times that he's exercising his muscle of masculinity. Now let's define that. So first we understand the need, and we understand the setup. Man comes from nothing, he's scared to amount to nothing. Woman comes from something, so she wants to be embraced by being something. Clear? From that comes the energy. A woman's energy, I'll start with a man. A man's energy is a giver. Because he comes from nothing and he's scared to go back to nothing, he needs to conquer. He needs to develop. He needs to create. He needs to have an idea. He needs to pursue. He needs to be aggressive. He needs to build, right? His whole life's mission, just so that he can go away from the insecurity of feeling nothing, is to do, to come financially, emotionally. I will teach my children. You understand? Like a man wants to surmount that. A woman is not a taker. She's a receiver. She stays in her natural element and flourishes, nurtures. Just by being her and creating space, she's almostly passive. She's subtle. There's a passive to her. And we're going to use different examples, okay? Let's first talk, we're amongst women, but we're recorded, it's okay. Let's first talk even biologically, okay? Biologically, Hashem made a man that he's outwards, and he made that a woman is inwards, saying that man again pursues, man again implements. Women receive, women take in, women, they're internal. So in the creation, the best example is in the creation of a child. A man implants and a woman passively nourishes. You could be sleeping and you're feeding your fetus. You're doing nothing, and your internal works is creating this child, is nourishing your baby. And it's not, people don't like to hear that because it's almost very subdued to women, but it's not. It's not, because the fact that she just flourishes naturally makes her 10 times more stronger. He just implements a seed, and for 9 months passively, she is creating a baby. And then she delivers a baby. She just nourishes. As a receiver, she just creates space that allows anything that he implements to grow. Another thing that is called a feminine energy is Shabbat. Shabbat is feminine. 6 days in the week, we work. And on Shabbat, what do? Nothing. We just be. We just be. Right? So we spoke about the physical. We spoke about the receiver and the giver. We spoke about Shabbat, of it being. Another example is the rain. The rain is a masculine energy. It goes and it drips and it drips and it drips. And the soil, the earth, is a feminine energy. It grows, it embellishes. Now there's one really big difference between the female energy and the masculine energy. And this is why it gives big pride to the women, not for the women to feel second class. And the Rebbe spoke about this. After the feminists came up and there's a whole movement, he said, yes, now is the time that women should celebrate their womanhood, celebrate their power in this world, their femininity and the feminine dimension that they bring to this world. The deposit that the husband gives is one thing, but the dividends that the woman produces is 10 times bigger than what is deposited. He gives a seed, she makes a baby. We work 6 days in the week just for Shabbat, but then Shabbat brings the blessings for the following 6 days. Everything that a man gives as a potential, a woman develops as an actual idea. And it's 10 times greater than the initial depositing. So when I connect to myself, I am so empowered that from a little idea, your husband comes in home and he says, I have a great idea. And that's what he is. Also, by the way, I forgot to say, there's Chochma and Bina. Chochma, that translates very loosely as an idea, a flash, a lightning, a spot of inspiration. And then Bina is, let's bring it down. Let's develop it. Let's give it its arms. Let's give it its legs. Let's flourish it. Let's make this something tangible. My husband comes home, I have a great idea. He's all about ideas, right? I have a great idea. I'm going to open this business and I'm going to do this and I'm going to take care of that and this and that. And the boy was like, well, hold on. Okay. So actually looking at everything right now, I think you should focus on this. She helps guide him to really concrete, like to make it more concrete, and not that it should stay like a flagrant idea. She brings it down and manifests it in a way that's 10 times more than his just bright idea. So women have a crazy power that they draw an idea and they make something about it. More so, a man says, I'm going to teach my children. I'm going to educate my children. Woman is education. A man says, I'm gonna honor and love my wife. But a man says, right? But a woman is love. She just embodies the aspect alone. So my point here, for anybody that says, men is always at the upfront and it's always the men and always, the whole idea of men having to go to time-bound mitzvahs is because they have to constantly be depositing, constantly be given, constantly need to be like focused. Whereas a woman, what is our mitzvah? What is our mitzvah? We have Shabbat, we have candle lightings, where we just invite Shabbat in. We have the mikvah we have the mikvah that is an internal thing. Nobody knows about it. It stays sacred. We have the kashrut of the kitchen. Nobody's looking at our pantries if the symbols are kosher. We're entrusted as women that are just being because we know you're going to make something much greater than what's the positive, we trust the women. But the men have to go, they have to wrap the feeling, they have all these mitzvot. The feminine energy is sometimes 10 times greater than the masculine energy. So much so that right now, in the living times that we are, rabbis that use these words say, we're going to stop being masculine and we're going to start being feminine, which means we've done it all. We've put in the rallies that we have to. There are campaigns after campaigns of doing. Now we want to be in the energy of femininity, of just embellishing, bringing Mashiach, connecting, nourishing, even the men now, right? And by the way, from the men's ego of resulting to nothing, right? He has to conquer, what is his tikkun, let's say? How do you repress the male ego? In humility. When I accept my nothingness, then I activate a feminine energy of being a receiver. And that's why we say that men should have a Rav. When a man has a Rav, when he surmounts to listening to somebody other than his own self, he's activating a feminine energy of saying, I know that I know nothing. You're telling me to do this and right. I could have my arguments. I could have my ego that says that you might not know what you're talking about, but I'm surrendering to my Rav. And Rabbanim are saying that today, in our days, we need to activate more than being masculine and conquer. It's equally important. We need to do. There's mitzvahs that we need to do. There's sparks that we need to elevate. But more today, we need to receive. We need to be a recipient. We need to create the kalim to allow for something to pour in. So knowing these energy gives me a very strong sense of purpose in myself. But which, by the way, again, I can have a masculine energy and I can have a feminine energy. My husband always jokes that I'm like, so I have such a masculine energy because I'm always like, Yosef, I have great ideas and let's do this. And like, I like to lead and it's true that I could exercise a muscle of masculinity, but where do I feel my most wholesome? Where do I feel my most aligned? Is when I feel like I've surrendered, because it is the word, it's the bittul, the suspension of self, and I've created a space where I'm nourishing those around me, where my husband is now taking space and I'm letting it happen, although I have a mouth, although I have what to say. I'm giving him his space to be him, without my comments, without my fine print at the bottom, without my skewing, without me trying to like manipulate the situation. I'm just giving him the space for him to be and to exercise his masculinity. And again, what I make of that, just like the seed that brings the baby, 10 times more will come out of it. 10 times more will come out of it. My children, also this dynamic happens, right? My children are having a meltdown, are in a time of like really like, I don't know, they're just, you know, it's after school usually that it happens. Everybody's a little bit, you know, rambunctious. And I just create then a space with my energy of loving. What happened today at school? I'm here, Eliyahu Levi. I get to eye level. I'm nurturing. I'm in a feminine position of encompassing, creating space for others. When you have to surrender and create space for others, I want you to know that you're being more vulnerable. You're being much more vulnerable. A man goes ahead and veils a woman at the chuppah because he's actually telling her that in this relationship, I might take space and you might have to create space, which makes you more vulnerable. Like, I now have to completely come into this relationship and make space for another, suspend of myself. There's a bittul there. There's a vulnerability there. How do I know to trust? How do I know that I'm going to be taken care of? And that's why the Gemara says that a man has to honor his wife more than himself because of this, the suspension that a woman is taking on. But when a woman does, she's empowering what can come of it 10 times more. And all the blessings and all the bracha and all the abundance that can come is actually through the initiation of that woman exercising her femininity. I don't know if this is making sense. I don't know if this is resonating. Okay. Because I just wanted to make it clear that that feminine energy is not only for females, but it's at most at home in a female. There's something that I wanted to read. I hope that's okay. I'm a huge, huge fan of Rabbi Manis Friedman. Huge. Like if we could send him this recording, that could be, you know, let him know I'm his biggest fan. I really am his biggest fan. Rabbi Manis Friedman. Rabbi Manis Friedman. So when I was first married, I was fortunate to spend 3 or 4 months before I fell pregnant, 3 months in Israel with my husband. We said, we don't care. We're just going to do it. No family, no in-laws, none of that. We're going to seclude ourselves in Eretz Yisrael. And we did. And it was beautiful. He would go learn. I would go learn. We would come together for lunch. And we would listen to these 8-minute snippets from Rabbi Manis Friedman called, I'm married. Now what? It was amazing. It was amazing. It exchanged the idea of mashpia, makabel, which I'm talking about now. It also made me understand the male ego, the man's need for respect, and how I could place my role as a woman to just give him respect. Oh, you changed the light bulb. My gosh, who could do it? Only you could change the light bulb, right? Only you with your power, and you didn't even call the mechanic, you didn't even call the electrician. Wow, fortunate am I. I'm being sarcastic, but I really do talk like that sometimes. And he also had to understand him, coming from like a family, I would say that's like doesn't really compliment. They're not very big on their words. And my family is everything expression, everything. I told Esther the other day, like Hashem gave 9 utterances to the women and 1 to the man. I have 11. So we would sit together at lunch and we would listen to this Manis Friedman about I'm married, now what? And he talks about the different dynamics of male and female. And this is another book that he created. She actually lives here in Miami, the one who wrote it. But I hear him as I'm reading it. It's from Rivka Goldstein and Manis Friedman. She kind of transcribed a lot of his teachings. And I've been a big follower of him for a long time, so much so that I had the privilege of having an audience with him, like asking him hard questions. And what about this? And what if I don't feel respected? And yes, there's a lot of suspension of self and a lot of vulnerability. How will I know? I'm not investing in something that I don't know that I'm not going to retrieve anything else. I gave it to Rabbi Manny. And he took it and he smiled and he gave me a lot of these lessons. And I just want to read one passage about how sometimes not doing and not being actively doing and allowing this energy and this feminine energy to reside and to take space. If only I could put in words the bracha that comes out. I can't, so I'm reading his words. Okay. A woman's greatest fulfillment and pleasure is found in receiving and nurturing, like we mentioned, yeah? When she receives fully and completely, she feels like a woman. There are relationships in which a woman is a giver, but in a feminine way of giving. Her strength emerges from her openness and vulnerability. And conversely, there are times when a man is a receiver, but in a masculine way, his openness and receptivity is cultivated within his strength. Both give and both receive. Yet in marriage, they give of each other as well to each other, sharing the respective innermost and essential qualities. When a woman can surrender to her husband, she becomes a wife. When a man can give himself completely to his wife, he becomes a husband. And it is a true marriage. They have blended and become one. When I have friends that sometimes talk to me about issues, about, male, female, and what about me and my indignation, I said, right now, you are remaining a woman. And your husband is remaining a man. And you are not elevating your womanness to a wife. And he is not elevating, he's not transferring to become a man, a husband. Our whole idea and the reasons why we lay this groundwork of feminine energy, masculine energy, what a male needs, what a female needs, is to eventually elevate to being from a woman to a wife and a man to a husband, which creates perfect unison, which creates from together we were one, we were looking at each other face to face, and now we were separated and we come back to the ultimate unison, right? The ultimate union. So understanding our feminine energy, understanding where we can exercise that helps us be more responsive as a wife. And so too, I feel like men should also learn. I'm married, now what? Look it up, 8 minutes every day. It's awesome. I did it with my husband and it was really transformational. Baruch Hashem.
Is it a podcast or it's like you on YouTube video?
It's called 11213.org. I know it's the zip code of Crown Heights, 11213.org. And he has 8 minute snippets. It literally doesn't go more than 8 minutes. There's on there also the series of Mishpia Makabel. But I'm married now. What? And even if you're married 10, 11 years, you can still listen to it. I'm not okay, on speaker, yeah? Both of us are hearing. We're actively learning together. But through these concepts, I understand more how I could connect, first of all, to myself as a woman and how I can connect myself better as a wife. While knowing what my husband needs and knowing what I need, then we can respond in a way that's growing our relationship. But it's not only in the dynamic of a marriage. Now, in everything, when I'm exercising my femininity with my children, when I'm exercising it also with the space of connecting with a friend, using that feminine energy of just hearing and listening. I had a friend that came to speak to me, and she didn't need me to be masculine and to give her the good advice. She didn't need me to tell her what to do. She needed space to be heard. She needed me to just be. She needed me to act in my feminine energy. And when we recognize those feminine energies, then we can actually enhance our relationships everywhere. There's also times that we will also exercise a masculine energy, sometimes even in chinuch, right, with our children. Yes, we'll nurture, yes, we'll love, yes, we'll embrace, but sometimes we have to discipline, or sometimes we have to be more, let's say, aggressive about how to pursue and go on. I just want to make sure I didn't miss anything because I always have like pages and pages of notes, but thank God I'm able to give it over in like a smaller time. Another really big speaker about this, if ever you guys want to look onwards about femininity and masculinity, is Rabbi Simon Jacobson, who is the brother of Rabbi Yossi Jacobson. There's JJ and then there's Simon. And Simon also talks about really how when the Rebbe came out and there was a campaign and he invited only the women to come. And they found it very weird that like the Rebbe never invited the women to come, but now he created a women's organization because he wanted women to understand that through their femininity and through their essence, they can do so much. So he actually spoke beautifully, and he has a whole passage on male and female and this Mashpia and Makabel. Strengthen. Okay, we spoke about that. No, see.
Tasman is a specialist in feminine and masculine energy. She wrote a book. She's a teacher in university in the US and in Israel. She lives in Israel, but she teaches in universities about feminine energy and masculine energy in the Torah. And she wrote a book called Circles, Arrow, and Spirals.
Mm.
And it's only about that. It's a beautiful
For circles,
circles,
arrows, and
spirals.
yeah.
Spirals. I will share it.
I love that. No, I do. It really resonates when I learn about femininity, because if I'm really quiet with myself and I don't let the distractions of life kind of, then I always come back to like what I feel as a woman. You know, that this idea of this surrender, this idea of giving space, this idea of just letting everybody be in my presence makes me feel the most woman. You know, now obviously the Torah tells a man that he has to provide that security, that a woman can't surrender if she doesn't feel like in that security. And that's why also by the bedekin, he whispers something in her ears, like a whole Kabbalistic, like it's a whole mimer actually that the Rebbe said about that point. But yeah, when a woman receives, she relinquishes her need to control. And honestly, you shared a story that's really that. When a woman becomes a recipient, is that she's not looking to control the situation. She's just looking to be passively taking it on. And from there comes the most biggest bracha. And that's an important point to emphasize, is that when we act in our feminine self, whatever is given to us, whatever we take in, if it be a news, if it be any kind of situation, we reproduce it in 10 folds. It's 10 times greater than when initially was given. So we have the power to receive something that could be positive, that could be negative, and make something 10 times greater than what it was initially. And it only takes the strength of a woman, because through her just being, through her subtlety, through her passiveness, she flourishes that. B'ezras Hashem. And God willing, now that we've connected to a feminine energy, we can really then start talking about the home. We can really start talking about what makes a home sacred, the dimension of man, woman, and then God. B'ezras Hashem. Thank you, ladies.
Thank you. It was so beautiful.
Thank you.
Thank you so much.
Emotions and the feminine energies. Yeah.
What is it more than on this world? There's also so much talk about gender and energies and like what's man, what's woman.
Oh, yeah.
There's so much like
Yeah.
confusing now.
Oh my gosh.
And even be a female anymore, right? Like the total whatever. Not really as much Jewish, but even in the like Jewish world, let's say the modern world has changed it a little bit, right?
Right.
Because now like women are working more.
Mhm.
You're not home. There's a lot more pressures on the family, on the community to, you know, provide and things like that. And so in a lot of households, it's different than the way it might have been like for our parents, where I feel like you can kind of be in your family more
Right.
without the pressures of everything that we have today. We obviously see a lot of like, you know, anxiety,
Yes.
depression, like it's with so many things that are coming now. I'm just like curious your thoughts on like how the world is sort of, I think, like almost telling us to try to be a different way. And as I feel like what you're saying is, you know, kind of think back to the original of what it was supposed to be. I'm just curious your thoughts about kind of like some of those things that the modern world is kind of exposing now.
Right. So, you know, a lot of people, it can't be translated that like our feminine energy should suppress us to like go out in the world, because the truth is that women today are very much in the workforce, very much out there, very much providing also in their family. So I don't think that the idea here is that men are out and women are in. I think we have today we have equal responsibility, even in our masculinity and our femininity, but we're just playing different parts. It's like a car has different parts that serve a different purpose. So women have a purpose in their role, but it's not to say that they can't pursue, you know, something like a man. Like, how do I make this clear? I don't feel like it's a contradiction that women are out in the workforce. I don't think that it's affecting their feminine energy. If anything, it's pouring in their feminine energy in the outworld. But in its essence, a woman's internal self, like how she can, in her own corners of her house, like how she could flourish everybody else, she can also do that in the world outside of her home. Like, so, I don't know if I'm answering your question, but like, we're all really like serving a purpose, even if the purpose is like counterintuitive from the initial idea of a woman. Am I answering or?
What I understood with the giver and the receiver is that a man needs to be always needed. You have to tell a man, you have to make sure that he knows that he's needed.
Mhm.
If he's, that's what a man needs. A woman doesn't need to feel she's needed because she does all, we don't have that. But if a man, if a man all of a sudden feels he's not needed, his wife is not giving him enough respect, or he's just, she can do everything and she doesn't need his advice, she doesn't need, he gets lost in the marriage. And as soon as he's not needed, it just goes.
That's how he lusts his wife, by the way. The Torah says that the biggest lust for a man and why he's attracted to his wife is because of her desire and need for him. It's funny. We women have like a desire to get married, to have children, but it's not our mitzvah, right? It's funny. They say that it's the man's mitzvah to go out and to have a wife and to make a family. Yet Hashem placed the yearn in a woman. So there is no other complement to a man than his wife's need for him. Just like there's no other complement to Hashem when we also exercise the fact that we need him. And like our first class, he responds also in him needing us, right? That's also a mashpia makabel situation. I don't know if I answered properly. I do see that today people are saying women are out, women are now in the workforce. They're kind of exercising their masculinity, so much so that they try to be more powerful. Like I said last class, I came from a very like secular group of friends, and they had like the pursuit of happiness. They want to make it in the world. They wanted to be the next shot, like achievers. That's very nice, but it's not sustainable. Meaning the yearn is not replenished. You can be a woman that could be a huge entrepreneur, and that's great. That's great. That's great. I'm not saying that women should not be. I think that every woman can do something in this world, and even better than men sometimes. But what I'm saying is that when she's quiet with herself, she's not fulfilling a womanly need of nurturing her space, of loving, of creating space, of that vulnerability. Because she's basically responding to an act that a man needs, right? Because she doesn't feel the need to prove. Again, a woman never feels like she needs to be more woman. I've never heard a woman say, I need to be more woman today. I heard a man say, I need to be more manly today. I heard a man say today, I have to conquer and I have to be aggressive. But a woman feels her most self and aligned when she's just being, when she can nourish and love. And so that's how I see that if she's out in the workforce, it's not really contradicting.
We see that even in the Torah, like so many times you see women that are out. You see Esther Malka, you see Deborah, you see Yael, you see so many women. We have to understand the only woman who was 100% feminine energy was Chava. And the only man who was 100% masculine energy was Adam Arishon. The other descendants were a mix of them. And now it's for sure that within a couple, within the marriage, a woman should have this ability to make space. Why? Because the couple is shalem, is a completion, is a whole, it's an entity. And just like we have, I think we say completing vessels, complementing vessels. Complementing vessels. So how do you give the power for a man? You were mentioning like it's good that they learn also about this importance of being a man and giving and providing. But the truth is that how do you create how do you give that your husband the space to become that giver is by becoming a receiver.
Mhm.
Why? Because if you withdraw, if you make that space, if you use your feminine energy to make space for him, then because it is a complete complementing vessel, he will pour in because this is natural. This is the way it comes. And I saw it so many times in couples therapy that I only work with women. I don't work with men. I only work with women. I saw once a man with his wife because he needed to hear something specific, but otherwise I never worked with men. And just by working with a woman, just by transforming the way a woman behaves and works on herself, because this generation especially, we have that masculine energy outside of our house, we have to remember that inside of our marriage, we still have to tap in this feminine energy and to make space for him. And the best gift, because we like to give. Why? Because we're in control when we give something. We're not in control of what we receive. Women like to be in control. So the best gift that we can give is actually the opportunity to become the giver.
The receiver.
No, for them to become
Oh,
the
yeah.
giver.
Yeah.
The gift, the ultimate gift that a wife can make to her husband is, I give you the gift of becoming
The giver.
Mhm. And this is exactly when there will be shlemut, when
Mhm.
there is the completion within the couple. And it's very crazy to imagine that only by working on ourselves can we create a change in our husband, but it does work. I saw it so many times. If both people are healthy mentally,
Right.
if there is a question of abuse or someone who has like a narcissist
Right.
personality, then it's another story.
There was an article also that came out of this woman that really succeeded in her life. She was late into her, I think, 40s and 50s, and she did really, really well for herself. And at that point, she said that although anybody that looks from the outskirts can think that I've achieved it all, I've achieved nothing, because she had not found her husband, she had not divided her kids, and then she came to the ideas that the most triumph that she could be was to nurture, not to be in the position of like the giver, the implementer, the aggressive one, but to have built from the bottom up, So it's a beautiful article. I could share it also. Like she really talks very heartfelt that she wishes she didn't go with common society's perception on success and have looked inwardly in her Jewish roots of what success would have meant for her as a woman. So I think that dimension of mashpia makabel is almost in anything. Like even in Hashem, within the first classes that we spoke, he also wants to give. Are we a recipient? Right? So this dynamic happens all the time. And like I said, what's important to know is also for all those that like are a little bit like me that need to go and go and go. What is received when you give that space, that suspension of self, when you receive, what you give out is 10 times more greater. That actually shifts everything else. And I'll end with a story. Okay, I'll end with a small story. There's a man that was very poor, and there was a man that was not wise, and there was a man without his husband, without a wife. So Eliyahu Navi comes to the man that was very poor, and he said, please, I'm a very big pauper. I have to ask of tzedakah all the time, and it's very hard for me. Will you bless me with fortune? And he says, here's a penny. Here's a penny. I'm giving you this penny. You will become a very, very wealthy man. But know that at any time that somebody comes to your house, knocks at your door, doesn't matter what the request is, you will pay the sums and you will give him abundantly. Yes. He gives him the penny, and lo and behold, he becomes a very wealthy man. To the other man that wishes to be wise, he says, Eliyahu Navi comes to him, he says, I really wish to be wise. I want to be able to give of myself, to learn with my pupils and not feel dumb-fronted every time I'm around with people. And he says, here's a parchment of paper. But at any time that somebody asks to learn of you and to get of your wisdom, you are to make time with him and you are to learn with him. Yes, of course. And he became a huge, huge scholar, a big, big, smart guy. And then he goes to the one that yearns to be married and he says, what did he give him? I guess he gave him, no, so he said, no, he gave him I guess a ring, and he says, I am blessing you with a meritorious wife, that one that will support you and love you. And if your wish is to have a wife, know that what you need to do is you need to compliment her all the time. You need to care for her and love her, and make sure that you're always saying beautiful words. After many, many years, Eliyahu Hanavi comes to check in on the brachas that he gives to the people that he gave. And he comes knocking on the rich person's house, and he says, hello, hi. He's asking somebody else, right? He's Eliyahu Hanavi. I'm here to ask, I'm marrying a daughter. I would like a certain amount of money to cover the costs. Okay, no problem. We give this amount of money to all paupers that come knocking on our door. Here's the money to get. And then he says, please, 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 let me speak to the owner of the home, the person who's giving out. I need more money. I need much more of a sum. It's not going to cover my costs. So he comes knocking on his door, and he says, please, 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 like, can you give me this amount so I can cover for my daughter? He says, this is what we give to all the paupers that come knocking on our door. He says, but wasn't it once, I know your secret. Wasn't it once that somebody gave you a coin and you promised that at any sum that he would give you, you would give it to him? He says, oh, this coin, take it back. What do I need? Because I have a whole lot of wealth. And obviously he lost all of his wealth because he broke his promise to Eliyahu Navi. He goes up to the scholar. He says, please take some time and pray with me, learn with me. Can't you? Will you? He says, well, okay, sure. What do you want to learn? He's like, I hardly know how to speak Hebrew. Let's do Aleph Bet. Let's start from the beginning. Me, the wise, the wisdom, everything that I can give. You want me to do Aleph Bet? Get yourself a tutor. Go and get classes of Aleph Bet. And he says, I know your secret. Wasn't there once a man that came and gave you a parchment and said, if you go ahead and you study with anybody, he will make you wise? Oh, this piece of paper, take it back. I don't need it. So obviously and then at that, he loses all channels of understanding, all channels of wisdom. He becomes not as stupid as he once was, but as clueless as he once was. And then he comes to the man with the wife, and he knocks on the door, and he speaks to the man, and he says, hi. How are you? How are you doing? How's your wife? And he says, hold on. Yes, dear. Yes, my love. Yes, chérie. How can I help you? And he says, oh, I know your secret. You were once told, like, here's a ring to be married. You're always complimenting your wife. You're always being kind to her. Great. Here's a coin. Here's a parchment. And remain married and happily married, to show that when we invest, and that's really the introduction to the next class, but when we invest in the dynamics of a man and a woman, in creating that harmony between men and wife, we receive all of the blessings, the wisdom, the parnasa, the yeshuat. He was smart enough to know that he has to keep to that kind of blessing with his wife to receive all the other abundance. Yeah. And that will be the introduction to the next class of Shalom. Thank you.
Thank you so much.
Thank you.
Anybody who needs to go to the
I need
restroom,
it.
outside is Rabbi Abibor is at 1:30.